My answer, it's not going to be McDonald. I don't think your answer is going to be McDonald either. My answer, there's two people that come to mind. And the first one, I think people are going to roll their eyes at because we've talked about him a lot in this pod and he was disappointing last year. But it kind of reminds me of the Quincy trajectory. And it's Tony Adams at safety, a guy we were excited about, a guy who got banged up early last year and kind of stunk the rest of the season because he was never healthy, inconsistent with his angles, looked like a UDFA playing major reps for the first time. Now he has that experience under his belt. He's more comfortable in the system. He's healthy. Maybe he has a better running mate in Chuck Clark. We'll see how the rest of the position shakes out. And I could just see him being like good next year. Not incredible, but just like good, where he was not good last year. And again, a UDFA playing for the first time. It's not crazy that he had mistakes and struggled last year. He's someone I would keep an eye on to be better than I think fans expect him to be based on what we saw to date. The other one is Kinlaw, just because of the talent, right? This is a first-round player. You know, he's had a couple moments with the Niners, but he's been a disappointment, right? Now, the question is he going to be like Solomon Thomas, where he's like, gets the contract in escrow and he's like, okay, but he's okay at some things, but a disaster at other things? Or can he be like super Quentin Jefferson, basically, where he does what he did last year, but is more talented because he was a first-round pick, and all of a sudden he has like 7.5 sacks out of nowhere? I don't think that's out of the question next to Quinnen Williams with Hassan Reddick and Jermaine Johnson rushing around him. So those are the two that come to mind for me.
Yeah, and I think those are good choices. I want to say Kinlaw, but the problem with the Kinlaw choice is that, like, one, there's always the health problem with him. He just needs to put together a fully healthy season. And two, the main argument when a defensive lineman comes here is that he's in the perfect system. But Kinlaw was with the Niners. So how much does he get the bump of the system? That'll be interesting to see. I know you thought I wouldn't take him, but I will take McDonald. I think that Reddick is really, the Jets are so fascinating right now because they've been historically really bad at this since we started doing this podcast, that they have like Tyrod Taylor, perfect veteran for Jordan Travis. Tyron Smith, perfect veteran for Olu Fashanu. And then you have Hassan Reddick, perfect veteran for Will McDonald. Like, they have all of the veterans that are the peak version of that type of player. And then they have the guy behind them that if things go right for them, that's what their career will be. Like Jordan Travis' ceiling to me is Tyrod Taylor. Olu's ceiling to me is Tyron Smith. And then you look at McDonald, I don't ever think he'll be Hassan Reddick because there's just not a lot of guys in this league at that size that have been productive like Reddick. But I think if he could be 60% of Hassan Reddick, you'd be like, damn, like that's a good pass rusher. And I do think the opportunity will be there now with JFM out, where you kind of look at their package on passing downs and you would think, in theory, how heavy-handed Jermaine plays on passing downs. I mean, I would really try to rush Reddick and McDonald wide, bump Jermaine in with his hand in the dirt, and then you're never taking Quinnen. I should say never. They do take Quinnen Williams off the field, but ideal, like your perfect NASCAR-ish, hey, it's 3rd and 8. We're trying to close out this game in the 4th quarter. Like, I want Reddick, I want McDonald, and then on the inside, I want Jermaine and Quinnen. And those are situations where, like, who's getting the attention? Quinnen Williams, Hassan Reddick, and then Jermaine Johnson. Will McDonald should be on an island against right tackles, which...
Break that spin move back out from the preseason.
There was flashes as a rookie of him on an island giving tackles some problems. His preseason last year was phenomenal. I mean, we looked at McDonald's preseason and we were like, damn, this dude, it's hitting quick. And then he didn't get to play a lot during the regular season. So it's hard for me to find somebody more creative. Like, you covered Adams well, you covered Kinlaw well. Part of me wanted to say Eccles because it feels like, and I hate to say this, the Jets are due for an injury at corner this year. And I'm not saying someone's going to tear their ACL or something like that, but like, you know, does DJ Reed, he's dealt with, I think he's had concussions before. Well, I know Carter's been banged up too. It feels like Eccles will be on the field for, I would set the over under at 3.5 games this year and take the over. And Eccles to me is, he's competitive. Like, he's not a perfect corner. He's kind of got a weird build for an outside corner, but he's competitive. So he's got some ball skills and he's Tua's worst nightmare.
So we love that.
So yeah, my hey, this guy doesn't have a chance to play right now, but if something opened up would be Eccles. My guy that's going to play is McDonald, which is kind of low hanging fruit, but And then the real, like the intriguing guy, and everybody's kind of wrapped up in the story, which is amazing, but he is intriguing to me as this corner safety hybrid is definitely Quantez Stiggers. I mean, he has ball
Badlands
skills and
on.
he's
Yeah.
physical. So it's those guys kind of fit the DNA of Ulbrich really well, where
Yeah.
if he comes in and just kind of has that it factor over Ashton Davis, like I'd want him to be the third safety. But I think they're going to have him play corner reps out of the gate because they do want to gauge who's the Reed replacement next year.
Yes. Yes. I think all good call outs, and it's good that there's a lot of different candidates. Like it's not just one person. There's a lot of guys to potentially keep an eye on. All right, one more, and then we're going to do some Knicks Rangers chatter because we have to take advantage of it. So Boy Green dropped in these draft nuggets from Rich Samini for us to react to. Jets were pretty set on taking Olu. The only other consideration was a Dunze if he fell. There was mild interest in Bowers, effectively not major. They were worried about Fatanu's health, and they have long-term concerns there, so it was not a serious consideration. And they had Rodgers watching tape of Corley in advance of the draft. We now know that they're living together as roommates. That's going to be the story.
That was his
all
pick.
Summer. Yeah, his pick. Their buddies already. I don't find any of this like shocking. I think I finished mocking Adunze, and I think if Adunze was there, they would have took him. I'm sure they flirted with trading up, but it just wasn't there. There wasn't a buyer. But I think if he was there, they would have taken him. We were probably thinking more Fuaga if they went O-lineman before Olu, but they surprised us and bucked the trend. Shout out, Dan, to the kind of guys that they've drafted. The Bauer stuff being a smokescreen, I don't think is shocking. I guess sometimes it's rare. When a guy is a favorite for that long, like in the betting odds and everything, they were pretty heavy-handed with it. So not really surprising there. And look, if Corley has that kind of relationship with Rodgers, and Rodgers is like, have this guy on the field everywhere day one, that's a good thing, because as the roster sits right now, they're going to need a lot from him, probably too much from him out of the gate, unless they get another veteran, especially if Williams is banged up and Brownlee or Gibson don't take a major leap. So nothing shocking here. The Fataну stuff is interesting. It's a guy we talked about a lot. What was your reaction to that? And is there any other nuggets you heard that are worth noting?
Yeah, this year I felt like, look, it's a good time to reflect. I felt like I was on the right path the whole time, and I just kind of like I stopped at the wrong place. A lot of people were on the wrong path. Like I stopped mocking Brock Bowers to the Jets a long time ago. Quite frankly, like we didn't do that on this show when we did the simulator. Trevor and I stopped doing that for the Jets. We consistently had them going offensive line at 10. And then my final mock draft pick for SNY was Fuanga, and my final mock draft pick for NBC, I think, was Fuanga. But I just had the wrong guy, and I was happy I had the wrong guy because, like you said, they went away from their type, which they needed to do. I mean,
Yep.
I wouldn't have been mad if they took Fuanga or Fatanu, but they just haven't, this regime, taken that light-footed, athletic, like dancing kind of tackle that just has all these rare movements at the position. But, when you snap the ball, like doesn't just knock your head off recklessly. Like they loved that with Becton. They've liked that with a lot of their picks. And it was good that they got away from their type and realized like, hey, let's try something a little different. Especially it's different with a franchise left tackle. And when they drafted Becton, it seemed like they wanted to be a little bit more of a dry blocking team. Then after 1 year, they hired LaFleur and he was all outside zone, and Becton was a bad fit with that. And then he wasn't healthy, and the rest was history. So, and then the thing that really gave me confirmation was the day of the draft, when I'd been way off the Bowers train, was that they released a video. I think it was SMY's access. It was good access. Yeah. Where Douglas was like raving about Bowers and how versatile he was. And I was like, no way does a GM do this the day of the draft when he's going to pick a guy at 10. Like, that's not, I've never seen that in my life. So, yeah, I think ultimately, they showed that they're a little bit more pliable as a team scouting. And I'm sure there's no coincidence that there's a lot of old faces are out the door this year. It felt like it was kind of Douglas's draft. Of course, Rodgers and the coaches were involved, but it felt like with that 10th overall pick, Douglas was like, I got to take the reins back of my team here, because if I screw this up, like this could cost me my tenure here. Yes. And it was ultimately a smart move. Corley, I'm going to do a project because I did the Corley film room, but I think when I get through the rookie film rooms, I'll do Olu and a couple others. I do want to go back and watch the Packers in like 14 and 15 when Randall Cobb was, he went for almost 1,300 yards in 14 and he went for over 800 in 15. And I think he had some rushing yards those years, I want to say. He had some rushing attempts. He had double-digit rushing attempts both years, and kind of see, like, is that what Rodgers is thinking? Like, is this his, like, it feels like that. And I don't think he's the same player as Cobb, but I wonder, I want to find the usage and kind of go, because we know Rodgers is the offensive coordinator.
Special offensive assistant Randall Cobb will be joining the coaching staff. He already relocated his family. He's close.
He's a good mentor for Corley. Ironically,
we really saw a little of that with him and Gibson last year. Like, they're going to keep him around in some capacity. Player, coach,
anywhere but the field.
Yeah, wide receiver 12 on the depth chart, and whatever they got to do. Just seriously, just make him coach. Don't have him as a player. We are fired up to have released our biggest best ball draft yet. $25 entry, 12 players. Best way to get ready for Best Ball Mania, which is now live and has like a $1.5 million prize. So you should participate in that, which is $25, but you should practice by participating in the Badlands version. Now, I'm in it. Connor's in it. Few spots are already filled up. We'll link it in the description of the episode. Sign up for Underdog Fantasy. Use promo code Badlands. Get your deposit match. It's the season now. You know where everyone was drafted. Get in there. Get the reps pre-best ball. Get ready for some of the higher lowers we'll be doing this season that will also certainly involve rookies. CR, are you ready to compete again? We've gotten some smaller tournaments out. We mixed in some baseball, but now it's time for our biggest NFL tournament yet.
Yeah, it's time to run with the big dogs. This is what it's all about. All the rookies got their landing spots. Everybody's ready for fantasy football again, and no better way to do it than a best ball format. I can't wait to get everybody in this league and get it rolling.
That's sign up with Underdog using Badlands deposit match. Yeah, I am excited to see just how big of a bite they give Corley in this offense early in the season. And again, a lot of it's going to depend if they make a veteran move or not. Before we wrap, and we'll keep this tight before we jump over to the pod where we're going to answer the rest of the Discord questions. And thank you for sending them all through. We got to talk Knicks and Rangers. As I think most of you who follow know, both of us are big Knicks fans to the point that I actually had a failed Knicks website after I launched Turn on the Jets way back in the day. I learned that's more
time. It didn't fail.
Yeah. It's more important to go deep in one subject than try to go wide and do a million things at once. So that was my lesson from that. But I love the Knicks and I love basketball, even though I don't tweet about it incessantly like I do about the Jets. Connor, huge Rangers fan, has frequented multiple Rangers podcasts, including one of our Patreon friends who maybe we do a shared event with at some point.
Yeah, Blue Shirts Breakaway. Great guys.
Would like to sponsor it. So right now, we're getting a little 1994 Rangers. We're recording this right before game 2. Rangers are up 1-0. Knicks are up 1-0 off a thrilling win last night over the Pacers, where literally the Villanova trio scored at like 96% of the points. And it's just been goddamn awesome to have both these teams having this kind of run again. And, for the Knicks doing it with the way they're constructed post the Randall injury, they should be able to get out of this Pacers series. Now, they're going to be heavy favorites, underdogs against the Celtics. They're going to be heavy underdogs against what looks like the Wolves, who look like unbeatable at the moment. But man, you can't think about that now. Knicks, Pacers, playoff basketball. It just makes me so happy. It also makes me confident not confident, but believe that there's a world the Jets could turn it around, right? Because the Knicks were as bad as the Jets for a long time and as much of a mess off the field, on the court. It was a disaster. And they've really turned it around in recent years. They've been consistently good. And all it takes is that, that one guy with Brunson and then the right course around him, the right, supporting cast around him. And, Brunson scores 40 points every game now. It's ridiculous. It reminds me like the Brandon Marshall year where like every game he had 100 yards and a touchdown. Like you wouldn't even think twice about it. And now Brunson just scores 40 points every single game. Like that's at a different level though, because he scored more points than I think anyone but Michael Jordan over like a 5-game stretch. Yeah. So it's just fun. And, the Knicks, the Rangers, and the Jets all potentially being good at once is overdue. And I'll let you talk a little hockey before game 2 drops.
Well, I think what's amazing about both is that, the Knicks MVP is Jalen Brunson. who they signed as a 26-year-old free agent his first year there. The Rangers MVP is Artemi Panarin, who they signed as a 28-year-old free agent. And now he's 32, but he's just aging like wine. He's truly a marvelous player. It just goes to show you, like they really, both teams have done it right finally, which is so weird to say because my entire childhood of watching the Knicks, I was born in 91, but the real like golden 90s Knicks, I don't remember. I didn't like get to cherish those series or anything like that. I really remember when I started watching the Knicks nonstop, there was some weird years. I mean, all the bad free agents they had, and then they finally got Stoudemire, and that was fun, but not sustainable. And now we're here where they really built this team the right way. And the Rangers went through a full rebuild that took like 2 years by knocking out of the park two incredible free agents, Artemi Panarin, Vincent Trocheck, trades, Mika Zibanejad,